So hello everybody, real privilege to be here today. First of all, I want to apologise before I get into anything about the Prezzo. I will be talking very quickly. I've got a lot to present today and I normally take 3 hours to present this information today. So I've chopped it right down to 55 minutes. So obviously I'm excited to present the information, but I might get excited and talk a bit too quickly. Please forgive me if I do that. There's going to be a lot of writing up here, so anyone who wants to come down and sit up the front so they can read better, feel free to do that. I like a very relaxed seminar. Questions at the end, as just been said, but I'll go over my own history in a minute, and then we'll jump in. But these quotes I thought were a great way to start today. First one from 1988, when we look back on the Surgeon General's report on nutrition, the number one thing for health and longevity is what we actually eat every day. It's the number one thing. I have it right up there next to sleep. Obviously, then we know exercise as well and rest. But sleep and diet are the most crucial things. And we knew this in the 80s. You know, when I was raising kids, when I started having kids in the 1980s, we knew this stuff. So, you know, the second one, he that takes medicine and neglects diet wastes his doctor's time. And I think this is a wonderful reminder of, you know, we have this incredible medical system saving life with amazing drugs and medications that are coming out all the time. And if you're taking that, but you're still eating really badly and not getting enough sleep, you're not going to get the results from the medications that you need. So I'm a huge fan of diet, lifestyle, and environment. That's what I'm going to be covering today. And then the third quote's really interesting from a philosopher from the 1700s and the 1800s. All truth goes through 3 stages. First, it's ridiculed. Second, it's violently opposed. Finally, it is accepted as self-evident. And I think this is great because it reminds us to keep an open mind. I remember when I was a kid, I went to the UK a few times in the 70s and the 80s, and there was smoking on planes. And, you know, many of you remember this. And they used to have, they'd have a curtain. Yeah. Do you remember that? There was a curtain, and over here you're allowed to smoke, and over here you weren't. And somehow the curtain was keeping you safe. It was crazy, right? It was just ludicrous. But, you know, and we now know, you know, that smoking is deadly and it kills, and, you know, 1 million innocent deaths die every year from smoking, from second and third hand cigarette smoke. You know, one of the biggest causes of deaths on the planet is second and third hand cigarette smoke, let alone the 10 million that die from smoking every year. So, you know, we now know this stuff, and so it's good to keep an open mind as we go, because some of the stuff I'm going to say might be, you know, quite controversial. I don't know, but it might be. We'll see how we go, I guess. I'll watch your faces and see you if people are going, oh, did he just say that? You know, we'll get on. But who am I? A little bit about my history. You heard a little bit before. I was born at 7 months. My mum had toxemia, and she was very sick, and the doctors at the time were very clear that either I was going to die if I went through to full birth, or she was going to die if she carried me through. So they chopped me out at 7 months. I was a little 2'9" baby, and my parents used to carry me around in a little butter basket from the UK, which carried 2 pounds of butter. So if you know how big 2 pounds of butter was, I could easily fit in a basket that holds 2 pounds of butter. That's how small I was. So I was very lucky to be alive. I ended up getting asthma, hay fever, allergies, flus, bugs, colds, weight problems, digestive issues, constipation issues, skin issues, acne, a whole range of things. By the time I was 5, I was a full-blown asthmatic, very, very sick. I was taking 20 to 25 shots of Ventolin every day for about 20 years. So I know what it's like to be heavily medicated. And I was consistently told it's genetic. There's nothing you can do, son. You've got bad genes, you've got asthma, we can't cure it. Can't cure your coughs and colds you get in, we can't cure your allergies. You live in Auckland, which is the known hay fever capital of planet Earth. And so we can't do anything about that, son. You know, just keep taking the drugs. So all that was offered to me was Ventolin for my asthma and other medications as well. So I got to the age of 20, I started having kids at 20 back in the 80s. And it's funny, I was thinking about it the other day. I've actually had kids in the 80s, the 90s, in the 2000s, and now grandchildren in the 2010s and the 2020s. So I'm looking back at it, it's just 5 generations of Bennett right there. You know, so it's pretty fabulous when you think about it. And I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, I got to the age of 20 and I started studying diet, lifestyle, and environment, because when I had my first child, Trey, in 1989, I wanted to be a good father. And the moment that happened for me that just kind of, I guess, saved my life and leads up to this very moment of me being here with you today was literally when my girlfriend at the time, who was heavily pregnant with Trey, we were getting ready to go to bed, and I was about to get into bed, and I took my 2 shots of Ventolin because I needed to take it to go to sleep. I needed to take it through the night. I needed to take it in the morning. I needed to take it in the afternoon. I got myself to the point where I was very, very addicted to Ventolin for my asthma, and it became habitual. And she turned to me, she's sitting on the side of the bed, she turns to me and she goes, Jason, you're pathetic. What kind of father are you going to be? You can't get through the day without drugs. Why don't you try changing your diet and lifestyle for once? Maybe eat some good food. Maybe that'll make a difference. And then she rolled over and went to sleep. And I was sitting there wild, as you can imagine. I was so triggered and angry. But, you know, I sat there for 3 or 4 hours and thought about it overnight. And I realized over the course of the next few hours, actually, if there was something that could help me be healthier and keep up with my kids when they were going to be born, because I wanted to be a good dad, and I was still young myself, I was only 20 at the time. So if there was something I could do that could have me be healthy and that it was worth looking at. So that's when I started studying diet, lifestyle, environment. So the next day I went down to the local health food store, which was in Grey Lynn here, which sadly has just closed. For those who know about the health industry, Harvest Whole Foods, one of the oldest, most well-established health food stores in the country, closed earlier this year due to financial strain and pressure. And really sad. Anyway, I walked in that shop and started working there, and I worked there for 4 years. Then I ran my own health food store on Waiheke Island. Then I worked for a company for Livestream called 20 years with spirulina and things. And then I've been doing my own things since 2011, writing my own books and bits and pieces. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, I guess. I self-cured everything by the age of 25. I haven't been sick since. I gave up alcohol at the age of 18, and I gave up meat as well. So I haven't, for those people that believe you need to eat meat to be healthy and strong, I'm almost 60. I haven't had a single piece of meat since 1985. Not one single piece. How's my iron levels? Fine. How's my protein? Fine. How's my energy? Fine. How's my B12? Fine. It's interesting, isn't it, when we start to look at the myths that we kind of get fed, thinking you have to eat a certain thing to be healthy. Turns out you don't. So I got to 85, I quit the booze, one of the best decisions I ever made in my whole life, because of course alcohol not only drives most cancers and most heart disease and has a huge impact on type 2 diabetes and obesity, but also impacts on your liver. And your liver is in charge of how long you live, what diseases you get, and how you fight disease. It's all run by your liver. And the single most effective way to wreck your liver and weaken it is to drink alcohol. As soon as you drink, the alcohol hits your liver, turns into acetaldehyde, one of the most toxic substances on the planet. Now, some people occasionally can deal with it. They get to 100, they have 2 gins every day, they're fine. Most people can't, So I've studied the centenarian cultures too. That's in my first book, so I've got a lot of stats around all that. Key thing to remember today, I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor or a naturopath. I'm self-cured, plant-based and alcohol-free for 37, 38 years. I'm a best-selling author. I wrote these books, as mentioned, back in this one 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And my wife has just recently put out, here's a very unashamed plug for my wife's first cookbook. She's just released the first cookbook, and it's going out into the cookbook stores over the next few weeks, and you can get it from our website. So that's my wife as well. So we're now both authors, which is quite fun. Leads to all kinds of interesting debates in the home. But I've spoken all over the world, and my website is jasonshonbennett.com. And if you want to follow me online, if you're into that kind of stuff, you can follow me across all the mediums like Instagram and Facebook, and I post videos and things like that every day. That's all you need to know about me. My references and research, this is a little bit of it here. I am an avid health researcher. I research every single day, and I have done for over 30 years. So I love research. I love looking at connections between health and longevity, and you'll hear a lot about that as we go through today. So this is my family. Like I said, I started in the 80s. That's me there. This is my wife, Tracy. This is our eldest boy, Trey, who's 35. This is Tove here, who's 33. This is Georgia, Trey's other half, with Robin and Jasper and Julius, our grandkids over here. This is Luke, who's down in Otago. Who's 24, and Joel's 20. And this is Hadassah, who's now 9, our oldest grandchild, Jasper, who is 8, Julius, who's 7, and Robin, who's now 2. And we have the kids pretty much every week. We look after them on Monday and Friday. So we're very connected as a family. So that's all about me. Gives you kind of a sense of who I am and what I'm about. But before we get into health and longevity, the key thing to talk about is genetics. Because most of us think that the diseases we have or that we're at risk of are to do with our genetics. The truth is actually they're not really. Genetics comes from the word genome, which means to produce. It's not victim of, it's to produce. So when we look at the actual meaning of what are genetics, they genetically, the epigenetic reaction of our genetics gives our health and longevity. So if you look at me, classic example, little Jason Shon Bennett, born in the 1960s, little baby, born really unwell, spent the first 10 to 15 years of my life very sick, very unwell, on medication every day, could barely get through the day without taking drugs. I get to the age of 20, I'm the same 23,688 genes that I was when I was born. Does everyone understand that? Like I'm the same Jason Shon Bennett at 20 than I was at birth, right? So I'm the same Jason. However, at that point, I decided to change my diet, lifestyle, and environment at the age of 20 in 1987. I mean, right, I'm sick of being sick. No doctor can heal me. There's nothing that can be done. There's no drugs I can take that will actually cure everything. They're just putting off the symptoms of the current moment. What can I do to be well? And that's when I started researching longevity, and I started fasting and reading books like You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. She's all about emotional connections with disease, things like that. So I read Every single book I could get my hands on. And back in those days, in the 80s, for those of you that remember, the only way that you'd get a health book is you'd go to the library and you'd order one, and it would take weeks to come in. And then if you wanted to take copy from it, you'd have to photocopy in the library at 10 cents a pop. Do you remember those days? I remember it so well. You had to go in with a whole bunch of 10-cent coins. So I started researching in the 80s, and it took me about 5 years, but I got well. And I haven't been sick since. So I haven't had a cold or a flu, a bug, a virus since 1993. And every year, all the people around me go, oh, this is the year, Jace, it's the year you're going to fall over and get unwell, and every year I don't. And I recently actually have got 2 people at home at the moment who live in a little sleep out on our property, really sick. And they were saying to me, oh, don't come near me, don't come in here. I said, it's okay. We're chatting away, and I'm saying, look, if you need any health advice, I'm here. And they're sneezing and coughing and really unwell. But the twin and migration studies show longevity is about 3% genetic. So if we look at the Japanese after the Second World War, there was a lot of Japanese that migrated from Japan to Hawaii, becoming American Japanese. And we found that after 15 years, they were all dying of the same diseases as Americans. Yet their siblings and family back in Japan weren't. Now, there's only one key difference between Japan and America in the 1945, exactly, is diet. That's it. As soon as you embrace the Western diet, which is, the American diet, or what we call the SAD diet, Standard American Diet, SAD, and that's what it is. It's very sad, right? And New Zealand is one of those countries that worships America. Anything America does, we love it. We bring it over here and we do it. The KFCs, the McDonald's and Coca-Cola and all that stuff. We just love it, And unfortunately, this is one of the worst health stats in the world. So when we look at the twin and migration studies, the other great study piece was Dr. Dennis Burkett. There's so much research in this area, but he went to Africa and he studied rural Africans for 20 years, and he tried to find rural Africans with bowel disease or bowel cancer or IBS or IBD or Crohn's disease, anything at all. He couldn't find any in 20 years. And yet when you look at America and you look at what are the number one rates of cancer in America, bowel cancer, IBD, Crohn's, IBS, they're in African Americans. And so we see the same thing where you get a group of people go to America and live there. Within 10 to 15 years, they're dying of the same diseases as Americans, even though their home country doesn't have high levels of those diseases. So you start to see that genetic mix happening where your genetics get impacted by what you do. In 1971, we knew this as well. The National Cancer Review and the US Department of Agriculture said, quote, genetics determines 2 to 3% of total cancer risk, 2 to 3%. And all health problems are diet related. And the World Health Organization itself said bowel cancer is 3% genetic. Anyone here want to guess on which country in the whole world has the number one rates per capita of bowel cancer of any place on planet Earth? Do you know who it is? Us, yeah, New Zealand. Specifically New Zealand women. New Zealand men are number 3 in the world. New Zealand women are number 1 in the world. Czech Republic's number 2 in the world. It's just disgraceful. 1,200 people rot to death every year, 3 to 4 times the road toll. We don't do anything about it. We should be on the front page of the paper every day, a running total, and a conversation called, how can we stop this? If we know 97% of it's preventable. It's heartbreaking stuff, but also the good news about what I'm talking about today is it gives you hope and understanding that you can do something. You actually go, okay, well, here I am right now in this present moment. What can I do going forward to be as healthy as I can be? It's not about what you've done before or in the past. It's about from now on, what kind of life do I want? What do I want to eat? How long do I want to live? How many grandkids do I want to have? How much time do I want to put into them? Do I want to be able to keep up with them? I love keeping up with my grandkids. And one of the things about grandkids, that for many of you in the room, you'll be grandparents like me. You've got to go up and down a lot. Have you noticed that? That squatting motion, that whole thing of getting down to here, right? Now, this is what you want to do to go to the toilet. Of course, this is called squatting. This is when your bowel is wide open. You do a really good bowel motion, which, of course, impacts on your genetic expression in your bowel, which we'll get to shortly because we're going to talk about the bowel, right? But when you go up and down, that's really important when you've got grandkids. And it's one of those exercises. My granny, Amy, I was very lucky. I had a step-grandmother, so no blood relation, no genetic gift of longevity, right? But she was my step-grandmother. And she was walking past my father one day and she looked down at him. He was squatting and she walked past, and I remember because I was there. And she said to him, as long as you can do that, you'll stay alive. And off she walked. And she lived to 104 in great health. And she died at 104. And when she died, she could feel that she was dying. And she sent a message to the family saying, my time is done. I feel like my life's over. Don't come and see me. I'm good with the family. Everything's good, And then she passed away in her sleep 2 weeks later. So she had a real sense of it. That's what we call longevity. And longevity is not something that we get a lot of these days. So the same 170 genes that change when you eat less and eat better are the same genes that are in charge and regulate DNA repair. This is your anti-cancer. This is your cancer repair here. Metabolism, this is how big you get. Energy production, how much energy you have. And cell survival, how long you live. So the same 170 genes that are dictated by how much you eat and what you eat dictate these 4 things in the human body. It's incredible when you look at it. Out of the 23,688 genes we can control, 170 of them are directly impacting how long we live every day based on what we eat and how much we eat. Hence my first book, Eat Less, Live Long. It's the simplest way that I could say it at the time. So the truth is you are not your genetics. And as Harvard cancer specialist Dr. Michelle Holmes says so beautifully, quote, genes have been there for thousands of years, but if cancer rates are changing in a lifetime, that doesn't have much to do with genes. And that's a beautiful quote. And one of the research pieces, and again, I could do 2 hours today just on genetics, but we don't have time for that, so I've just got 2 slides in here today. But the interesting thing here is they took this group of men, they measured them genetically, and these are men who were carrying a bit too much cholesterol, higher blood pressure, carrying a bit of weight, but unwell, but unfit. And they said to these 3 men, look, we're going to study you for a period. We want to measure your genetics and see what happens. And so they taught them to do 3 things. And the 3 things they taught these men to do, really, really simple. Number 1, relax a bit. Like have some downtime every day, read a book, sit in the garden, pray or meditate, whatever is your thing that calms you down. Do a bit of that every day. The second thing was eat more plants. And what the feedback from the men is what is plants? And then they had to teach the men what plants were. So the men then understood what plants were. And then they could eat plants, And then they taught them how to walk every day for 30 minutes a day. So literally walking, sitting still, and eating more plants. And then they measured them. In just 12 weeks, they lowered blood cholesterol and blood pressure and lost weight. Now, the number 1 cause of death on planet Earth is high blood pressure. Number 1 cause of death. 1 in 3 people will die from a heart disease related, mostly to do with high blood pressure. And you can reverse it in 6 weeks if you're willing to. I've done it with thousands of people. But you've got to change your diet, your lifestyle, your environment. Those 3 key things have to be impacted to get that. So they lowered that, 48 disease-preventing genes turned on, and 450 disease-promoting genes switched off, including those involved in prostate and breast cancer. Now, out of 23,688 genes, 450 to 500 is a massive swing. It's a massive group of those genes, just changing. Lowering your risk of cancer, extending your longevity, taking away blood pressure. Phenomenal result, and all they did was sit for a bit every day, eat more plants and go for a walk, measured genetically. So the research is there, and this is the line that if this is all you get out of my talk today, it's this line, these 7 words. Genes require triggers, you control the triggers. So right now, from this moment onwards today, here at 1:34 on September the 28th, yeah, good, brain's still working. From now on, you can impact on what your genetics do. And you can have an impact within 3 weeks, within 12 weeks, within 6 weeks, and the whole human body can be rebuilt within 2 years. It takes about 7 years for the skeleton, but most of the body's rebuilt within 2 years. The liver is fully regrown within 2 years. So even if you've drunk a lot and really partied and have a lot of bad food and you've got a bad liver, you can regrow it if you're willing to. So again, key words here, genes require triggers, you control the triggers. Genetics loads the gun, but you pull the trigger. That's why the genetic twin studies show that genetically identical twins often die 30 years apart, because one of them chose to live a certain place, eat a certain way, but they had the exact same genetics, dying very differently. Most modern cancer is not genetic. Dr. Raju Kupulati, who's a Harvard Medical School professor of genetics from the Worldwide Cancer Genome Atlas Project, studying the genetic aspects of 25 major cancers, which are the key ones that killed human beings, said, and I quote, "Most cancers are the result of genetic changes that occur during the lifetime of an individual. This does not affect future generations. Simply put, our DNA is subject to chemical modifications. They can turn your genes on and off. This is epigenetic change. The majority of epigenetic changes is from diet, lifestyle, environmental choices." And that's the good thing. I mean, that's the great news. The great news is you can impact on your health. You're not just a ticking time bomb dictated to by your genetics. That's the great news. So if you could start to go, okay, well, if I can dictate my health and longevity, how do I want to live? How long do I want to live? What kind of health do I want? And when we look at the European Prospective Investigation Study, which is the most comprehensive global examination ever done on cancer, they said, quote, "Cancers of the colon are rare in developing countries, but are the second most frequent malignancy in affluent societies," like I said before. Cancers of the colon, bowel cancers. A major cause, quote, is a diet rich in fat, refined carbohydrates, and animal protein. That's your typical diet, you know. For example, you go to KFC and you have fried chicken and chips and a cola. That's that. That's the exact diet. So when you're eating that, that's what you raise the risk of. Genetic susceptibility for bowel cancer appears to be involved in less than 5% of cases. Again, this is the biggest global examination of cancer ever done, saying that bowel cancer actually is less than 5% genetic. And like I said, in New Zealand, we have this massive epidemic of people dying unnecessarily. And I've dealt with patients, I've worked with people who have bowel cancer. It's heartbreaking. It's utterly heartbreaking. Quote, this research mentioned New Zealand as a role model for cancer growth. Here's the quote they said. As developing countries succeed in achieving lifestyles similar to New Zealand, they will encounter much higher breast and colon cancer rates. There is no region in the world that has a high incidence of breast cancer without a concurrent colon cancer burden. So what they're saying is when they did this examination of cancer, they found that breast cancer and colon cancer were always high in the same places around the world. And we know that bowel cancer is 95% dictated to by what we do, and yet we don't have that conversation around breast cancer. And breast cancer is the number one fear for New Zealand women. You do any kind of survey on New Zealand women, always comes up the number one fear is getting breast cancer or dying with breast cancer. Number one. And yet 4 times more women drop dead every single day from heart disease, mostly to do with high blood pressure, which is almost completely eradicable through diet and lifestyle changes. So when you start to get into that, you start to go, wow, I can have such an impact on my health. I can actually change how I age, how I do. Nutrition and Cancer, a review of the evidence for anti-cancer diet. There is actually only 238 meta-analyses that I've got on hand. And this is the gold standard research. Only 238 that actually connect cancer and diet. And this is the beautiful quote that I really like. No disease is an island because no cell lives alone. Really sums up how the human body works, is that actually the blood is going everywhere the whole time. The whole body is connected. Cancers cause 1 in 6 deaths globally now, as we know, about 10 million a year. 18 million cases in 2010. By 2019, 26% higher in 9 years alone. It's the number 2 cause of death now behind heart disease on the planet. And the quote that really chills me is from the scientists in oncology. I mean, it's chilling, but it's also really enlightening. The huge breast and bowel cancer growth is mostly due to Western lifestyles. It's a misconception that nothing can be done. And again, this is cancer researchers studying cancer. This is scientists studying cancer. So when we look at gut health and cancer growth, there was another great piece of research done across Europe where they took 600 elderly people and they decided to feed 600 of them the usual diet, and half of them the usual diet, and half of them they put onto what they call a plant-based whole food diet. And the result was the plant-based whole food diet, altered their microbiome, improved bacterial diversity in the gut, and inhibited the production of inflammatory chemicals, C-reactive protein, and interleukin-17. These are key because they lead to a loss of brain power and cognitive function, and they massively increase your development of diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. And the take-home comment from them was prebiotics, which I will explain what prebiotics are shortly. Prebiotics limit cancer growth by enhancing the body's natural anti-tumor immunity, which is, again, a wonderful statement around food. And the research now is just thick, and it's just coming so thick over the last 20 years. The American Gut Project, 2017, they had about 1,000 people from around the world. They looked at them, they studied their guts, they gave them a different diet and a plant-based diet. And again, the quote, the number one predictor of a healthy gut microbiome, by the way, the microbiome is this part here. It's about 3 kilos. It's, your liver, your bowel, that whole area where where your gut bacteria grows. It's this part of the body. So when you hear me talk about microbiome, can you still hear me? Is the mic still on okay? Okay, no, just kind of went a bit, oh, nice, thumbs up at the back there, cool. So participants who ate more than 30 different plants per week had unique fiber-loving bacteria that just weren't found in people on a plant-deprived diet. Now again, this goes back to what I talked about with the rural Africans. When Dr. Dennis Burkett studied the rural Africans, he couldn't find bowel disease. And what they were doing every day was squatting, moving, and eating plants. And they were eating a huge variety of plants. And that huge variety of plants in their microbiome changed the microbiome of the bacteria to be anti-cancer and anti-disease bacteria in their gut based on the diet that they eat. I mean, for those, it's a really interesting one. When you look at nature and you look at what animals will do when they get sick, does anyone know the first thing that an animal does, the very first sign it gives you that it's sick? It eats grass, yeah, but what's the first thing it does before it eats grass? It does what? Stops eating, correct. Animals all, naturally, you got your dog, your cat, your horse, your pony, your rabbit, your chicken, whatever. Your mouse, your gerbil, Yeah, hamster, it doesn't matter, right? Whatever animal they are. When they're sick, the first thing they do is they naturally stop eating so the microbiome can take over, reboot the genetic expression and fix the body. That's why I fast regularly. I mean, I do a 3-week fast a few times a year. I fast 1 day a week. Sometimes I'll do a 30 or 40, like a month-long fast. I'll keep working right the way through. Once you get used to fasting and you're good at it, it's something that's very easy to do. That's a whole other conversation. And we'll park that because otherwise I'll get excited and I'll start talking about fasting and I'll run out of time. I'll get told off. So back to this anyway. So when we look at animals, they stop eating when they get sick, and so do human children and babies. Even though the natural inclination is to breastfeed, infants will stop breastfeeding when they're sick. And then the first thing they eat, as you said rightly, is grass. Animals eat that. Now that's called a plant-based whole food diet. That's what that's called for animals. They naturally will eat grass after fasting to keep themselves well. When they look at this research, fewer than 1 in 250 people were eating 30 plants a week, and yet it had the biggest impact on the gut microbiome and the longevity. So a century of data says the exact same thing. Eat plants. Research on over 100 studies, over 100 years, humans, animals, the longest lived cultures in the world, from all those groups of people who live long. It analysed restriction of calories. It looked at the keto diet, the paleo diet, the vegan diet, the vegetarian diet, the Mediterranean diet, all the different kinds of diets. And it was published April 2022. What they said, interestingly, diets high in legumes and vegetables, this is your dal and chickpeas and tofus and lentils, things like that, and along with whole grains and nuts with fasting, can add healthy years to a person's life expectancy. So again, it doesn't matter which way you ping it, it's the same thing. So we know that eating more plants will give you longevity alongside rest and smart lifestyle choices like not smoking, not drinking, managing your stress, that kind of thing, getting enough sleep. But what do we actually eat in the West? This is pretty much what we eat in the West. Over a lifetime, your typical Westerner, i.e. New Zealander, Australian, American, Canadian, UK, 12 cows, 6 pigs, 3,000 chickens, 30,000 litres of cow's milk, 4,000 litres of alcohol, 6,000 soft drinks, 9,000 candy or chocolate bars, 3,000 loaves of constipating white bread, 1,000 hamburgers, and 77 kilograms of white sugar. Now, I weigh about 74 kilos, so that's more than me in sugar alone. Now, what's missing here is fibre. Fibre. Everyone's obsessed with protein. You notice everyone's obsessed with protein these days? It's all rah, eat more protein, right? No, my advice is eat more fibre. Fibre, fibre, fibre. The longest lived cultures, the leanest, healthiest centenarians, with the lowest rates of disease and the lowest incidence of hospitalizations and the lowest intake of medications, eat more fibre than we do. Fibre, fibre, fibre. And we're going to get right into that now. Why is it so important? Well, it's because we're constipated. Your lower bowel, your colon, your sewage system is naturally programmed to enter your bowels after every meal. 3 meals in, 3 meals out. 3 meals in, 3 meals out. 3 meals in, 3 meals out. That's the natural human colic gastric reflux. That's why when you wake up in the morning, where's a chair? Give me a chair. I'm just going to do a demonstration. Thanks. Imagine this is a toilet, right? Now my toilet, I squat on my toilet. I noticed the signs in the toilet here said no squatting. Did you notice the signs in there? A little sign saying, which I understand because you don't want foot marks on the toilet seat, it's a bit unpleasant. But I have a squatting stool at home and I squat when I go, right? But this is what most people do when they go to the toilet. And this is what most people call a bowel motion. Okay, I'll just give you a demonstration. That's what most people call a bowel motion. That's called constipation. Right? This is what happens to me in the morning. Within a minute of I wake up. Awake. Bowel motion. Squat on my toilet, my little squatty. Massive toilet dump. Right? And it's so big the toilet's blocked. Right? And this is great because that shows how much fibre I've eaten. Right? The fibre is the measurement, right? So then I flush the toilet and it all goes. And then, I go and I get into my exercise, I make a green tea. My green tea stimulates another one. So then I'm going the second one, right? And then about 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm going and doing my third one. So before midday, I've already done my 3 bowel motions, which is great. Because, that a measure of how much fibre you are eating is how regularly you go and how big it is. You don't want to be straining or pushing or struggling or having to read 15 issues of the Woman's Weekly just to get through the poo. You want to actually get on the toilet and have it done before you can open your phone. And you go, finished. That's the idea. Because constipation is the problem. 3 meals in, 3 meals out. Many middle-aged people onwards have 1 to 7 kilos of undigested fecal matter stuck in their colon. So if you want to lose a bit of weight, 7 to 10 kilos of it mostly is stuck in the bowel. Once you get the bowel clear, microbiome starts to work better again, you start to get your health back. So if you do not get rid of your waste, you store it. Literally, if the body, if you're eating 6 meals a day and 1 meal is coming out, ask yourself, where's the other 5 meals hiding? Because we know where they're hiding, right? Same old place. Here, for some people around the bum and the thighs, somewhere the waist, somewhere the neck. We all store it in different places due to our different body types and things. But it is stored on the human body. And if you can reframe body fat into stored fuel, you'll do yourself a massive favor, because you go, how much stored fuel have I got? Oh, I could fast for 2 months. Fantastic, right? So stored fuel is actually stored fuel for when the famine comes. But you know what we cured? We cured famine. Big mistake. I mean, I'm kind of a bit of humor, but we used to have to fast all the time, and it kept us in check. Anyway, again, like I said, don't get me started on fasting. So if you do not get rid of your waste, you store it. The average Western bowel motion is about 77 hours from when you eat something to when it comes out. I go within 18 to 24. And the rural African tribes go within 24 as well. There's virtually no bowel disease in rural Africa. I never saw one patient in 20 years of surgical practice. Again, that's from a great book by Dr. Dennis Burkitt. If you want to read that book, it's incredible. Studied these people and found no bowel disease. And yet you look at America, and the number 1 rates of bowel disease in America is African Americans, and it's twice the amount of the second group. Of all the different races in America, they are so far ahead, and yet in their natural diet and environment, no bowel cancer. So the step 1 is fiber. It's the very first thing. Fiber is plant roughage. It acts as an internal scrubbing brush, and the more bulk fiber you have, the more the bowel responds, the better the bowel works, the healthier the body. So remember, bulk fiber is what you're after. Whole food carbohydrates always exist, like an apple, for example, or a piece of celery. It always exists with what I call this word here, plantioxidants. You'll never hear anywhere else because I made the word up. Right? It's a way of describing where you get your antioxidant goodness from. And antioxidants, of course, convert in the body to stop cancer cells communicating and spreading. They're the different colours in nature. Carotenoids are antioxidants. Carotenoids become antioxidants in the body. So the more colourful your diet, the more antioxidant rich you are, the healthier you are, the longer you'll live. So when we look at this, plantioxidants, I put plant on the front to remind you of where you get your antioxidants is in colourful plants. Right? So it's a nice way of reminding you to do that. But also things like vitamins and minerals, and they do not result in weight gain. If you're eating something that's mostly fiber and water, it's all going to come out. So it doesn't pack on the pounds. We get about 10 grams of fiber daily. I recommend 60 to 100 grams. If you're eating 10 grams a day, nothing's going to come out here. Nothing, right? You can strain all you want, but nothing will come out. It will sit in your bowel and rot. And of course, we have these massive levels of liver cancer and bowel cancer in New Zealand, and constipated related diseases like irritable bowel syndrome and Crohn's and all these things that are to do with constipation in the bowel. So the more fiber you have, the better your bowel, the cleaner. The beautiful thing about fresh plants is that they all contain fiber and water in a beautiful mix, so you don't have to worry about adding anything to it. Chimpanzees, which are almost genetically identical to us by about 5%, 300 grams daily without any constipation in nature. So very good levels, orangutans even more so. So where do I find my fiber, you ask? Because I know you'll be sitting there going, okay, I get that I need more fiber. Where do I find fiber? You don't go to the health food store and buy a fiber supplement. That's not what you do, okay? I'm not saying that. What you do is you go to the grocer's or your backyard or the supermarket or whatever, you buy more fruits and vegetables, because that's where you get your fibers from. So firstly, you've got fruits. There's 6 food groups. I'll put them all up there so you can see them all. 6 food groups. Number 1 is fruits, and that's obviously whatever's in season. I can't recommend enough, if you want a long, healthy life, eat the fruits and vegetables that are in season. Not only are they cheaper, but that's what we're designed to eat. That's why when you go to Iceland and you're feeling hungry, you don't go eating bananas, do you? No, you wouldn't last very long in Iceland if you ate bananas, because they don't grow there. You eat whale blubber when you're in Iceland, because that's what's there. So you eat whatever's local. Really critical thing to distinguish. That's why bananas go off in winter in New Zealand, because they're not naturally supposed to be in our environment here. Bananas are a summer fruit, not a winter fruit. But Kiwis eat more bananas than just about anything else on planet Earth. So fruits, mixture here, grapefruit, by the way, best fat burner on the planet, contains naringenin, and they're free. People just let them rot on the ground. If you see anyone with a grapefruit tree in your neighbourhood, they're all just sitting on the ground, no one eats them. And then when they do eat them, they chop them in half and sprinkle sugar on them. It's like, no, what you want is the bitter flavour. The bitter flavour stimulates the liver to burn fat. That's what naringenin and grapefruit does. Bitter. Phenomenal. And it's free. Vegetables, things like celery, broccoli, cabbage, things like that. Nuts, anything from almonds and Brazil nuts, hazelnuts. Seeds as well, something we don't eat a lot of in New Zealand, but the seeds, there's some trendy seeds, like quinoa. You might have heard of quinoa and chia seeds, They're the expensive, what I call the sexy seeds, because they're marketed to be very attractive, so they're very attractive seeds. The old-fashioned ones are your flax or your linseed, your sunflower and your pumpkin. And for men particularly, pumpkin are really good because they're so high in zinc for the men's prostate. Then you've got whole grains, things like brown rice, oats, rye and barley, and then legumes. And this is the group that Kiwis eat the least of. And when you look at the longevity cultures, the number one food in longevity cultures is legumes. All over the world, whether it's Okinawa, Sardinia, Ikaria, Loma Linda, Longevity Village, Japan, China. Whenever you look at the longevity cultures, the number one food they eat every day is either beans or legumes or lentils. They get up every day and they go, what beans or lentils shall we eat today? We get up today and say, how many servings of chicken do I have to eat before I don't have a protein deficiency? Which is just marketing, right? You don't have to eat chicken to get your protein. Beans are where you get it from. So beans are the key thing. Longevity food, the number one longevity food is your legumes. And vegetable fibre in the gut is the key cause of key lowering of inflammation and causes apoptosis, which is the death of cancer cells in the gut, caused by vegetable fibre. So the more vegetable fibre you can eat, the better. And you get full, and you burn fat, and you lose weight, you get more energy as well. So your microbiome, as I said, your microbiome, you can call it kind of your colonic bacteria if you want to, or your microbial organisms or microorganisms. You might hear about them talked in that kind of way. The bottom line is probiotics. The bacteria in your microbiome runs your health. Now, the Greek meaning is pro-life. So as soon as you understand probiotics is pro-life, then what does antibiotics mean? It's an interesting question, isn't it? Where the actual name comes from is anti-life. It's an interesting question. And look, antibiotics have got their place, don't get me wrong, they've got their place. But the overuse of them is going to cause us huge problems in the coming years because we don't have any defence left. And when you don't have defence left in your bacteria, you're in real trouble. So every person has a complete unique set of bacteria. If I measured everyone's bacteria here today, you can't because each one of you has got 140 trillion cells in your bacteria. So there's this massive, amount of bacteria in the room. But if we measure them, they're all unique. And when we're born unique and sterile. And what happens is when we're squeezed out of our mum, that vaginal squeeze we get, that's when mum plasters her bacteria all over us. And literally, we're going from a clean, sterile environment to being covered in mum's bacteria. And that carries her DNA and her protection. And then we get put on the breast, and the breast milk starts to populate our immune system and our bacteria. That's why that bonding with the mum, and that's why children who are breastfed have much lower rates of disease and live much healthier lives. Breastfeeding is so important, and vaginal birth as well, because that's where we get that DNA from. That's where we get literally soaked in our mum's bacteria. Very, very healthy. Your bacteria comprises over 90% of all the activity in the body, and your microbiome right now can be either growing anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, probiotic microflora, or anaerobic bacteria. So right now your bacteria is growing based on what you ate today, what you ate for lunch, what you ate for dinner last night, last week, the week before, the night before, how much sleep you've got. Sleep is so critical because when you sleep, the body shuts everything down and goes into repair mode. It's why when I'm working with people, and I work with thousands of people all over the world, first thing I say to them is, what time you go to bed? And they go, sometime between 11 and 1. And I go, 11 and 1? Okay, I want you in bed at 9. And they look at me like I've gone completely bananas. But then, when they start to head back towards 9 or 9:30 and all the disease starts to go away and they get off the medications and the fat burning happens and they lose the weight and they feel incredible, and I start to put it down, I go sleep, 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 sleep. We're designed to go to bed when it's dark, wake up when it's light. Very simple. Prebiotics, as I said before, probiotics are pro-life, they're the bacteria. Prebiotics are the indigestible fibrous carbohydrates that cannot be eaten by bad anaerobic bacteria. So literally, you have a mouthful of grapefruit or an apple or celery or cabbage or kiwi fruit. It cannot be eaten by destructive bacteria in your gut. It will only be eaten by good bacteria, and they spread. And the more good bacteria you have, the more your genetic expression is enhanced. So again, the more fruits and vegetables that you eat in your diet, the better. 10 trillion cells in the body, 140 trillion in the gut. And this is why your gut's in charge. We have lost that connection with our instinct over the years. We've gotten very scientific and things, but when you ignore your instinct, you do it at your peril. You know, how many times have you gone, you have this little message from somewhere and it says, remember to pick up the keys or get the washing off the line or remember to call your ex-girlfriend and wife, whatever it is, right? You know, whatever that is, when we ignore that, things tend to go wrong because there's more activity in your gut than in your brain. And your gut runs your brain. And of course, what runs your gut is the food you eat. Food feeds your gut. Your gut dictates your emotions as well. So you can literally eat yourself happy or eat yourself sad. And basically, you are a skin bag with bugs inside. That's essentially what a human being is. If you boil it down, skin and bugs, nothing else. So if you start relating to, okay, well, I'm skin and bugs. If I feed the bugs good stuff, things might change. You know, so get into that headspace of feeding your gut good stuff. So why do you need prebiotics and probiotics? That's pretty much the list of why you need them. And this is a small selection. Again, I could talk about this for 2 hours, just this one thing. So what probiotics and prebiotics do is run your entire health profile. Now, you've only got one job. Feed bacteria good food. That's all. You know, so when you're born, little born baby pops out and goes, oh. And a little baby gut looks up to the brain and goes, hello, brain. And the brain goes, hello, little gut. And the gut goes, if you just feed me good food, I'll look after everything. The brain goes, no problem, I can do that. And then they walk off to KFC and start stuffing fried chicken down their mouth, you know. So, you know, it's really simple, right? It's really simple. Feed your bacteria good food. Your bacteria will then run your immune system, which runs your respiratory system. It's why when I cured my asthma, I cured my gut. Because your immune system, 90% in your gut, runs your respiratory system and your immune system. Now, I kept trying things for my chest. No success at all. Once I got my gut right, asthma gone, cured, healed. Never since. So yeah, it's really interesting, right? So how do you kill your gut bacteria? Well, the modern processed diet does it. Too much cooked food, antibiotics, medications, drugs, alcohol, bad bacteria, travel, chlorine, toxins, birth control pills, heavy metals, and stress, and a lack of sleep. So this is why it's so important. All you have to do is do this. Feed your bacteria good food, and your life will transform. This is how you kill them. And of course, most of us are doing this a lot. It's a big part of our life. So what does a high fiber day look like? And by the way, a high fiber day is also a high prebiotic day because prebiotics are those indigestible fibrous carbohydrates, right? So a high fiber day is you get up in the morning, you've soaked your muesli overnight. You can go to my website, by the way, and download a free muesli recipe that I've perfected over the years, completely free. And that's a great way to start the day because you start the day off with raw, soaked, sprouted and fermented foods going straight into the gut. And it'll keep you full up until 1 or 2 o'clock too. I have so many people email me, what can I eat to keep me full? I'm getting off my eggs for breakfast and I go, here's my muesli. And they go, wow, I'm full till 2 o'clock. And all they've eaten is a whole lot of raw, soaked, sprouted, fermented goodness, feeding probiotic bacteria. Phenomenal. So, raw soaked muesli with stewed frozen fruit or yogurt. For lunch, a raw energy salad or lightly cooked vegetables with any whole grains, turmeric rice, for example. Tracy's got some great recipes around that. Quinoa, sourdough bread's another one. For dinner, lentil dal, Thai tofu curry, tempeh laksa, gluten-free pasta, Vietnamese rice noodle salads. It's incredible. You know, we have dinner parties at our place where we make the entire dinner party just plant-based or vegan or whatever you want to call it, right? So nothing but plants. People come over, they eat the meals, and they're like, this is so good, I feel so yummy afterwards, you know. And then I serve them a cake, because I often do the dessert. I'll serve them this cake, and it looks like a chocolate flan, you know. And they all go, oh, yum, and they have the dessert. They have, oh, can I have some more? And they have some more, and all the men are dipping their fingers on the crumbs and eating it, and everything gets demolished. And they're all sitting there going, I feel so good, this is so awesome. You know, and these are all, you know, Kiwi men, and Kiwi women as well, but the Kiwi men who are like, they wouldn't know a plant if it hit them in the face, you know? They demolish the whole meal, they love it, and then they ask for more. And then I remember we did this dinner party once, and we had a friend called Ben who sat there, and all the men ate the meal, and they're, this is so great, thank you for the wonderful food. And Ben goes, hey, Jason, he looks down the table at me, what was that cake made of? Because he started getting suspicious, you know? Even though they'd demolished the whole cake and they'd all had seconds. And I said, oh, you guys can guess. And then the whole table erupted into guessing, oh, was it avocado? Was it this and that? Turns out it was a raw tofu cake. And every man in the room, and I'm honing in on the men here, you men in here, you're enlightened, so it's not you guys, right? But I'm honing in on the men in the story because they were all so, you know, beer and meat. And yet they came over and ate a whole dinner just on plants. They loved it. They felt great afterwards. And they had double servings of dessert. They liked it that much. They had no idea they were eating raw tofu. And they loved it. So it's all about how it's presented, you know? If you look at this is a great example of what we have on a Sunday morning as a treat for breakfast. What have you got here? Fully fermented sourdough bread, gluten-free, fully fermented, feeding bacteria straight into the gut. Under here, you've got miso. fermented soybean paste, fully fermented, feeding probiotic bacteria. Then you've got avocado, high essential fatty acids and high protein, feeding your gut. Then you've got tomato. This is a superfood meal. This is a plant-based piece of deliciousness. And it doesn't cost that much money. It's easy. It's high fiber, high antioxidant, phenomenal, right? So I think I've talked enough. I'm going to get into the summary, then take questions. I'll call out for the questions in a minute. 4 things dictate your longevity. Number 1 is diet. Number 2 is lifestyle. Number 3 is environment. Number 4 is genetics, in that order. If you want to take a photo of this screen, take it now. And what I'll do is I will be freezing the next screen as well, which summarizes up actually a couple of slides away, a whole lot of longevity tips, and I'll leave that one up for a little bit so you can take photos as well. But if we look at this slide, 3 things in my opinion, from what I've researched and learned over 30 to 40 years of researching health every single day. The 3 most important things. Number 1, plant-based whole food diet. Eat more plants. That doesn't mean you have to be a raw vegan or anything like that. Just eat more plants, Get more plants into your gut. Number 2, regular intelligent fasting. That's for another day, another conversation. Smart lifestyle choices around sleep, coffee, alcohol. Yes, coffee is the number 1 cause of high blood pressure. If you want to raise your blood pressure, have a coffee. It'll do it like that. What's the number 1 cause of death on planet Earth? High blood pressure. What's the fastest way to raise your blood pressure? Have a coffee. What's the number 1 cause of death on planet Earth? High blood pressure. Number 1 way to raise it? Coffee. Number 1 cause of death on planet Earth? High blood pressure. Number 1 way to raise it? Coffee. Have I got through? Yeah? I could do 2 hours on coffee, but we'll park that for today, right? So, the longest running diet, lifestyle, and environmental study in history, called the Cahill study from the States. They looked at people, middle-aged people from the 1970s, and they tracked them doing these 5 healthy behaviors for 35 years. Phenomenal. The people that didn't do the behaviors all died young with the diseases that were expected. The people that did the 5 healthy habits, and here they are, 5 healthy habits: eat a plant-based diet, regularly exercise, maintain a healthy weight, don't smoke, have low or 0 alcohol intake. This is the results they had. 80% lower rates of heart attacks. This is measured over 35 years. 80%. There's no drug on planet Earth that comes even remotely close to that result. Not only that, 75% lower rates of diabetes. Anyone know how much type 2 diabetes is costing New Zealand per year now? Over $2 billion. One disease. 60% lower rates of stroke and dementia. 55% lower rates of breast cancer. 33% lower rates of all mortality. That's called not dying. All mortality is called not dying, right? 5 simple habits. Middle-aged people started in the 70s, and they were measured for 35 years. This is the results. Now, these results are phenomenal. I mean, you cannot get them anywhere. There's no drug that is even close to this. Shows healthy longevity is all about behavior. Real time, right now, real living people, actually thousands of living people, regardless of genetics, regardless of family history, regardless of where they came from. This is more powerful than any surgery, anything that we've ever seen in human history. And all they did was change their diet, their lifestyle, and their environment. That's it. So the research is just phenomenal. It goes on and on and on. It never ends. So here's the 12 longevity tips. I'll freeze the slide when I've finished. Take some questions. Number 1, you cannot eat yourself sick and drug yourself well. Everyone get what I'm saying here? Yeah. So if this causes the sickness, this will cause the cure. Okay? Same thing. So many people come to me and they're sick and I go, I can get you sick. I can get you well. But it's going to take you changing your diet, lifestyle, and environment. If you're willing to do that, I can help. Number 2, be prepared and change your environment. So don't wake up on a Monday morning going, I'm going to get fit now, I'm going to get really fit, and then you go out into your kitchen and someone's sizzling some bacon, someone else has got the coffee percolating, someone else has got some hot muffins with cheese on top, someone else has got, whatever, because you'll fall over. That's your environment taking over. So you must control your environment. Be prepared. Golden rule number 1, be prepared, control your environment if you want to get well. Number 3, eat a seasonal, plant-based, whole food, high-fiber diet. What a mouthful that is, right? What a mouthful. That's just basically eat more plants in season. Raw, soaked, sprouted, fermented, and cooked. A nice mixture. Number 4, eat less, live long. Break your food addictions with regular intelligent fasting. That's for another presentation. It's my first book for those who are interested. Add bitter and green to your everyday life. Bitter and green are the antidote to your liver. So most Kiwis, once you get to 45 or so, have got a fatty liver. It's just so common in New Zealand because of the diet we're eating and in America and in Western countries. The 2 things you can do the most to impact on your liver is eat more greens and eat more bitter foods. So foods that are bitter. So not a grapefruit, which you put sugar on, but a grapefruit without the sugar. That's bitter. Green tea, phenomenal, bitter. So getting into bitter foods, stimulate the liver to clean. Number 6, treat sleep like pleasurable gold. Be in bed before 10 o'clock. Treat sleep like pleasurable gold. There was old sayings when I was young. I remember my grandma said to Tracy, where we're getting ready to get married in the 90s and the early 90s and stuff, and my grandma said to Tracy, get your beauty sleep, go to bed early. Right? Now this is great advice, because actually what happens is very different. If you're in bed at 9 o'clock and you sleep 8 hours and you take photos of how you look, and scientists have done this, and then you do 2 weeks of going to bed at midnight and sleeping 8 hours, you look dramatically younger and your skin is much healthier when you're in bed at 9 o'clock, even if you're sleeping the same amount of time. Like, we are wired to sleep when it's dark and wake when it's light. So going to bed at 9 o'clock, between 9 and 10, important. The 5 key exercises for longevity: walking, sprinting, climbing, swimming, stretching. Now, I don't say this so that, on the next meal break, everyone rushes out and tries to sprint up and down the road outside. I'm not saying to do that. Most of us have stopped sprinting at the age of 10. That's about when we give up sprinting, unless we're in sport or we want to be an All Black, but we give it up, right? So these are things that you slowly build to. But the best exercise, and trust me, I've worked with so many elderly people, what starts the ending of most people's life is the loss of mobility. That's when their life starts to fall over. It's the loss of mobility. The 2 key things to stop that is walking and stretching. Now, you can stretch at home for free. You can go online and punch in free yoga tutorials or stretchy things, and you can do it at home for free, or you can pay, $15 a pop at some trendy yoga thing where you wear your sexy pants and you have to do whatever you like. Do whatever you want, right? But walk more and stretch more. They're the 2 key exercises for longevity: walking and stretching. It will keep your mobility up, and mobility is the key thing if you want to live long. Make sure you regularly unplug or you will get sick. Unplug. It's really sad that we have a whole generation of young people who literally are growing up. I mean, I've got grandchildren. I've got Generation Alpha and, X, Y, Z, Alpha, the whole bit, millennials, all in my family. And it's so sad that, there's 2-year-olds I can see in our family that know how to use an iPad and an iPhone at 2. Now, this is the biggest social experiment that's ever happened in human history. Putting screens in front of people from that age, it's the biggest social experiment we've ever seen. We have no idea what it's going to do. But there's no coincidence that the raising in depression and mental illness alongside smartphones, direct parallel over the last 20 years. So, that's a whole other seminar. Number 9, rhythm, routine, and regularity. Wake, move, eat, sleep. If you roughly wake, exercise, eat and sleep at about the same time, that's really good for the human body. That will help regularity with the bowel. Really important. Your microbiome has a memory, so don't think that it's going to be easy to change your diet and it will just remember. No, your body thinks there's a famine coming, because genetically famine has always impacted human beings. So our genetic history is always this famine. So the body always wants you to carry weight. It's why it's so hard to lose weight, because your body, when you get bigger, it wants you to stay at that weight, because it goes, oh good, we've now got an extra 30 kilos so that when the famine hits, we'll be able to eat for 60 days just around our bum. So that's what the body does. It stores the weight to keep it so that when the famine hits. So your microbiome has a memory. Change takes time. Between 3 months and 2 years, you can rebuild the whole body. Weight loss is about diet, lifestyle, and sleep, then exercise. Everyone gets this wrong. It's because we're marketed to by companies who are selling sports shoes, and of course they want you to get and buy their sports shoes and go out running and make you feel better about it, as opposed to, well, no, you can't outrun a bad diet. You cannot ever outrun a bad diet. It does not make any sense. Gratitude and contribution. This is the final thing, so you can take a photo now if you like. Gratitude and contribution gives you access to joy and happiness. Like, if you literally want to impact on your mental health, contribute. Make a difference to someone else. Make a difference to your community, in your church group or your school fundraising group, or raising money for people who are unwell. And I know that you'll all be in that space right here now anyway. So, just remembering that. Gratitude and contribution. How lucky we are just to be in New Zealand. We are so lucky. Like, in terms of the planet, just being here puts you, as far as I'm concerned, in the top 5% of luckiest people on the planet, just being in New Zealand. So a really key thing. So it gives you access to joy and happiness. I do believe this is going to be available to the presentation. It's going to be available for you to watch, I think, as well. So my last quote, just before I take a few questions. I'll finish at 2:10. Right, sorry, I thought it was 2:15. I'm going to finish in about 30 seconds. So digestion of all the body functions is the one that exercises the greatest influence on the mental state of an individual. I love that. I love that. 1800s quote, all about your mental state is dictated to completely pretty much by diet. So for those who want to work with me, come and see me at the back of the room. Books are available on Weekside. I can work with you, get you well and all that stuff. I think I'm done. I don't think I'm running out of time. Sorry, I was thinking that I could have 5 minutes for questions. I apologise.